What's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Niners News here on 49ers Hive. My name is Zach Hernandez, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Matt Llewellyn. And today we are back. Thank you all for waiting our return. And we are going to be discussing some 49ers season MVPs, or I guess giving out some awards, I should say, not specifically MVPs. Matt, even though it was a pretty bad season all around, there were a couple of bright spots. We can break down a couple, defensive MVP, offensive MVP. Why don't you go ahead and take it away, whichever one you choose to go first?
Yeah, I mean, let's get the easy one out of the bag. Fred Warner, defensive MVP. That one's easy. I mean, he's probably going to be all-pro. He definitely deserves it. We're talking about, in my opinion, the best middle linebacker in football. So, he was there consistent day in, day out, making tackles, making plays. We didn't hear his name called a lot for mistakes. He calls the defense. So that one's really the easy one. The harder one's on the offensive side of the ball. There was just so much flux, so much turmoil that, who do you really go to? It's definitely not Nick Mullins, and it's definitely not CJ Beathard. And unfortunately, Kittle and Garoppolo were out. Mostert was out for an extended period of time. Deebo Samuel. To me, I kind of got to look at it, and it's not the sexy pick, but Trent Williams was there, the best guy on the offense, the most consistent guy. I'd love to go with Brandon Ayuk, but his production tailed off at the end of the season through no fault of his own, really. Just bad quarterback play all the way around, tough opponents. So for me, yeah, it's Trent Williams. He came to play after an entire year off. At first, a little rusty, but he kind of came around. And, it's going to be really interesting to see what the 49ers do. So far, it's looking like this might be another Emmanuel Sanders situation, which would be horrendous. But I think if they have to re-sign him. But if you were going to give anybody offensive MVP, it'd have to be Trent Williams, in my opinion.
Wow, yeah. It's unfortunate. He came out basically, or a story came out, I should say, real quick, that they tried to get a contract wrapped up with him, an extension prior to Week 17 concluding. That didn't happen. From what I read, it would have been easier moving forward on their salary cap if they were to have gotten that done. Now it's not, and he basically said some comments that he'd like to see what he's worth finally and test free agency. So we'll see what happens. I would love for him to be brought back, but obviously it's got to make sense for both sides. So
yeah. Well, and here's the crazy thing too. Indianapolis just had Anthony Costanza retire, so there's going to be a huge market for Trent Williams right now. He can't be franchise tagged, which is the other thing that's built into his contract. So the 49ers are either going to have to pay big or, they're going to have to go in a different direction. And, we're going to get to that later in the week, just how different the 2021 49ers are going to look. But, we're going to be in for it. So before we get to that, though, who we got for on your side? I know Fred Warner's the easy one. Are you going to take us in a different direction, or are you going to stay the path?
You know what? Just for the sake of the video, I will go in a different direction. I'm going to go with Jason Verrett.
Okay.
I think he had a solid year. And if you remember just, 5 months ago, the hype and kind of the belief around him, washed up, too injured, past his sell-by date, obviously with all due respect, but the story around him was that he can't stay healthy. He's a guy that was fantastic in San Diego, but who knows if that's who he is anymore.
Yeah.
Well, turns out it is. He had a fantastic year, was by far the 49ers' best corner, and I think that he proved them right for kind of waiting that situation out and sticking by him while he recovered. It's unfortunate that they only got, 80% of one season out of his time here, but I think it was still overall a huge plus. And whether or not they bring him back, that remains to kind of be said. But I got to go with Jason Verrett. I think for what he did for his own career, what he did for the 49ers, and just kind of that hype that he brought back to the 49ers secondary, especially with Richard Sherman out. I think if it's not Fred Warner, it's Jason Verrett.
Perfect.
And as far as the offense, this one is tough. I got to admit, you mentioned, clear cut. Last year, George Kittle, Raheem Mostert, there were just tons of people that jumped off the page. I'm going between two people. One is kind of a cop out because I don't really think it's the right answer, so I'm not going to choose him. I'm going to go Brandon Ayuk, and I think even though just like you did mention his numbers kind of tailed off at the end of the year, cooled down. There was a solid chance he was going to top 1,000 yards his rookie season. And I do believe if he had even Jimmy Garoppolo all 16 games, he would have. Mm-hmm. But, he finished the year 60 receptions, 748 yards, 5 touchdowns, a long of 49 yards, average 12.5 per reception. Solid numbers for a rookie. And he came in, he brought a lot of life to the offense, and he does some things that we had only seen previously from Debo. So I think he makes the offense just that much more electrifying. And when they're both out there, which unfortunately wasn't much this year, it's really hard to defend. So I'm going to go with the rookie Brandon Ayuk. Extremely excited to see what we can see for him next year.
Okay. All right. It was a season of ups and downs. So I'd also like to touch on, as far as giving out awards, these aren't necessarily awards, but it's more in line with who was, a big surprise for me versus who was a big disappointment. Big surprise for me, Carrie Hyder. Never heard that name before. And he's coming out and he's getting, I think he finished with 8.5 or 9 sacks, something like that. I mean, he balled out. Especially with the injuries and kind of being out there on an island. I mean, just absolutely fantastic play from him. Could not see that coming, and I wonder if he's actually priced himself out of staying. And as far as biggest disappointments go, I don't want to single anybody out. I could go Eric Armstead because he's been thieving some money. I feel like he didn't have the production. But biggest disappointment was just the health of the team. I mean, this team was snake bit from day one. They could not stay healthy. They got kicked out of their home base for a while there. It started week 1. We didn't even have everybody. Ayuk was out. I believe we lost a player in week 1 as well against the Cardinals. It might have been Sherman with the calf.
Oh, yeah, Sherman as well, yeah.
And was Kittle? Oh, it was Kittle. Yeah.
He took that knee.
Took him out at the knee.
Yep.
And then that rolled right into, week 2 against the Jets, where on back-to-back plays, Nick Bosa and Solomon Thomas blew out their ACLs. Just unbelievably bad luck. And then Jimmy G gets rolled up on by Quinn Williams, and he has a high ankle sprain that he would later re-aggravate and miss the rest of the season. It just one thing after another. And then Ayuk would come back, and then Debo has a hamstring. This person would come back, and then all of a sudden that person's out. We lose all these players for a specific period of time. Sherman comes back, and then Tart's out. It's just he just couldn't stay healthy. I'll give Jimmy Ward credit because he stayed healthy, and that was a big question for him for the longest time. He's actually been pretty good since he got paid. So, But, I mean, I don't know what's in the water in Santa Clara, but those players cannot stay healthy. That has to change if this team wants to go anywhere. But for me, obviously, for a revenge tour to turn into a rehab tour, shop our merch. It's unfortunate, and you hate to see it. And obviously, missing the playoffs mainly due to health issues has to be the biggest disappointment of the year.
Yeah, 100%. This one, I'm going to agree with you. Biggest surprise, got to be Carrie Hyder. I mean, looking over his stats now, he led the team in quarterback hits with 18, tackles for loss with 10. And, for tackles, he had, 30 solo tackles and 49 combined tackles, which was roughly, 8th or 9th on the defense. Solid player, especially just like you said, somebody we didn't even pretty much know existed, with all due respect, prior to this season. And somebody who came in, in Nick Bosa's shadow, essentially, because he had to step up once Nick Bosa got injured in week 2. And those are big shoes to fill, especially in this fan base. And he quickly became a fan favorite. And I mean, we were both on here singing his praises, week after week when we do our live stream recaps or even our post games. And we quickly, fell in love with him as a player. So I hope he didn't price himself out of a return to San Francisco just because of how much I respect him. But at the same time, I want him to get every penny he's earned because he definitely earned it. And yeah, man, unfortunately, I got to agree with you again on the biggest disappointment. Just 2020 as a whole, I don't think is much a big stretch to say was a giant disappointment.
Yeah.
Not being able to go to any football games, the 49ers not even being able to play at the end in Levi Stadium. Jimmy Garoppolo starting, 3-4 games, however many it was this year. I mean, it was just.
Yeah, he played in 6, but even I think 2 or 3 of those he didn't finish.
Yeah, that's right. He had that, 12-month-long ankle injury, apparently.
Yeah.
However long, 4 months. But it was just ridiculous. And I mean, there was a graphic, I forget, I think Fox had it up at one point, and it was 28 different players on IR and 130 combined missed games. And it's just no team can have success through that type of adversity. And you always hear, good teams go through adversity, they figure out a way. There's no way. I don't care if you're the Chiefs, you're the Saints, the Patriots, whatever these top teams are right now. If they had the type of year the 49ers had, they wouldn't be in the playoffs. I think it's as simple as that. And the fact that they were a couple of games shy from finishing 500 with everything they went through, that's astonishing of itself.
Yeah, I mean, there was a funny tweet that was out there where it was the last game. It showed Jimmy Garoppolo and a whole bunch of people were in the box. Maybe it was it was right before Kittle came back. I'm sorry. And it was showing all the players in the box. And it was this is a picture. This is what $100 million in salary cap looks like or whatever. And they were all in the owner's box. It just disappointment. And that, I mean, we're wrapping up a disappointing year all around, but that just kind of hammered it home. And, you hope the team gets back in 2021, that's all you can hope for. It's going to be very interesting going forward, but I'm not sad to see this year put behind us because it was definitely a hard watch at times. Yep,
it really was. But I think that's going to do it with us, guys. We had a bit of a hiatus, the holidays, and just I had some time away. So thank you all for waiting and, hopefully still tuning in after a little break. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in to another episode of Niners News. If you guys like what you see, do us a solid. You think we're doing a good job covering the team, hit that subscribe button. Like this video as well. Share it. That's probably one of the best things you can do for us. Get this video out there. And drop a comment below. What do you think of our awards? Who would you give the same awards to if they were different players?
Yeah, go ahead and click the bell for notifications so you never miss another video, even when we take a break. Thank you as always for joining us. Until next time, guys, go Niners.